Good afternoon. This is week 2 of my 6-week program as a follow-up to my Action for Happiness event, From Survival to Thriving. Some of us are still surviving. Some of us are living with pain, living with real struggles, and some of those struggles are current, but for the majority of us, it's the struggles from the past, from our childhood, that have left a real scar, a real wound that we're trying to heal from. So as well as some of us surviving, we've also got another kind of facet of that, which is that some of us are living. Living for me is getting through the day to day, paying bills, doing what we need to do to get by, but maybe not being able to flourish or thrive in some way, shape or form. And that could well be, again, due to things that happened previously. And finally, you've got some people that are thriving, that are flourishing. And that's my wish for all of us. My wish for all of us is that we move into that area of flourishing. And I know this is obvious, but I just want to reiterate that flourishing isn't about doing well financially in a business way, or having the materialistic things that make our lives full. For me, flourishing is understanding that the mind is expansive, that thoughts are just thoughts, and that we don't actually need to hook or grasp onto those things, because a lot of our thoughts and feelings are either about the past or about the future, when actually the present moment is where we need to be at. For me, flourishing is also about healing from those really difficult, developmental, traumatic, abusive situations, people and events that have scarred us, that have caused us to have wounds that have healed perhaps over time, but we've scratched the scar, we've picked the wound, we've been left with a scar that we can see, and a scar that still impacts us today. And I think what I'm trying to do with all of this is to help us understand that there is the possibility of thriving with all those wounds. There is a possibility of living life in such a positive way that some of the events of the past are only opportunities for growth and development. And this is week 2, as I said at the beginning, and this week I'll be talking about belonging. Belonging in terms of feeling that you're a part of something, feeling that you're connected, that you're not isolated, that you're not fragmented or fractured from first of all ourselves, because we can be very fractured and disconnected from ourselves physically, emotionally, and psychologically, and spiritually. A sense of belonging, because we can be very, very fractured and isolated and fragmented from others. So there's the internal belonging and the external belonging. And I talk about the internal belonging in terms of recapturing ourselves, because when you're surviving, one of the things that you do when you're surviving is that you become disconnected from yourself. And it's a very subtle shift. It's a closing off and a protective armor that we build around ourselves so that we don't get hurt again. And as I said, it can be a physical thing. So an example of this, apologies, I don't mean to trigger anyone here, but I would say that from my experience as a psychologist, this example is more common in people who have had historical sexual abuse. One of the things that people do to survive sexual abuse is that they become disconnected from themselves physically in order to be able to endure a very painful, a very disturbing and intrusive form of trauma. And people who have been traumatized verbally, for example, are more likely to disconnect physically too, because that verbal abuse has come through their connections with others, and it's very easy to get into a mindset that other people are the enemy, and that we're only safe when we're in our own environment or with ourselves. And I believe that any form of trauma, whether that's capital T trauma or small t trauma, can lead us to become disconnected in some way, and then we lose that sense of belonging. Belonging is the opposite of disconnection. It's feeling that you're a part of something, feeling connected physically to yourself. And one of the best healing patterns for that is something that's called SE, somatic experiencing. I think that that's one of the best things that you can do to become more physically connected to your physical self, whether that's your heart center, your mind, your physical body, and all of the physical processes within that. But also, we can feel disconnected from ourselves from an emotional and psychological point of view, and what we do then in order to survive is distract ourselves from the emotional pain, distract ourselves with lots and lots of dopamine hits. These are the people that we see who are addicts, and when I say addicts, I'm not using that word and that term in any disrespectful way or judgmental way. Substance abuse, and I'm not just talking about illegal substances, I'm talking about alcohol, I'm talking about cigarettes, I'm talking about all sorts of ways in which we try to heal or distract. Mobile phones, food, chocolate, you name it. There were so many things that we do to distract from our own heads. Because if we have had people tell us that we're no good, people tell us that because of our gender, our colour, our sexuality, that we're not worth it, then why would we even want to be in touch with who we are as a person when the world has told us you're a person of very little value to the world? And even if nobody says that directly to you, there are many messages in the world, many messages culturally and societally that tell us that certain groups of people or certain types of people are just not worthy, not good enough, not valued for whatever way, shape or form. And what we need to do is we need to belong. We need to come back to ourselves in every way possible. I mentioned SE, somatic experiencing. If you are somebody that has had very traumatic physical trauma, whether that's developmental physical abuse or some type of physical trauma through maybe an operation or something like an accident that's left a scar. Again, that scar can be very unconscious. You might not even be aware that you're still struggling. But one of the best healing mechanisms for that is a combination of something called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming, or talking therapy like CBT or other types of behavioral therapy, the type of therapy that gives you the opportunity to look at your behavior, look at your patterns, and find new ways of coping and healing. Guys, I have so much to say on this topic and I really don't want to bore you, but I will be posting 2 or 3 more this week because belonging is such an all-encompassing topic, and a little bit like one of those mind maps. I think about the word belonging and there's all these other topics like last week's topic of identity that spring off from it that I could talk about forever. But just know that you need to belong. You need to belong to yourself and you need to belong to the world. And one of the things you can do if you want an immediate way of connecting with your sense of belonging is to become part of something bigger than yourself. Go to a place physically where you feel so small and you're very much aware of the expansiveness around you, or volunteer for a cause or a charity that leads you into remembering that you are part of something where you are supporting people, helping people, coming out of your own head and being able to connect on a different level with people. Guys, I hope you have a lovely evening. I really look forward to exploring the topic of belonging with you further.